welcome to LOA, the channel where we talk about all things law of attraction. And today I bring with great joy my very first interview, and it happens to be my daughter, Arica. And we were gonna talk about law of attraction from her point of view. And I'm just gonna jump right into the question so you can get her perspective on the law of attraction. So, what is law of attraction? And how do you apply it in your life?
So, law of attraction to me is not just my thoughts, but the energy and intention behind them. So, whether it's just a passing thought or something I meditate on or try to visualize, I would consider that me trying to attract something. And how I use it in my everyday life, because I'm a girl, I love to shop. And so I feel like that's a very small example of something that I attract in my life. But I'll create a list of things that I like and I'll look over it, I'll be shopping and I'll heart something, and that's a sense of me already attracting it into my life. I guess that's an example of how I use it.
So what brought you to the awareness that, hey, these lists are equaling them coming into my existence? Like, when did that aha moment happen?
I think it was more so when I realized the pattern was occurring, that it was just a passing thought. I would just be like, oh, I just really want this kind of like corduroy jacket, and I'd write it down as something I want to get in the future, and then somehow it would just appear in a shop that I wasn't even going there to shop for it, and it would just be sitting there, my size and everything. So once I started seeing this reoccurring pattern, not just in my lists, but things that I thought about, it would just appear, and I realized, I was like, wow, that's actually happening. I'm attracting things.
So what are some of the practices that you kind of got invited and wooed by God to indulge in, to find him and feel close to him and hear him?
For me, I noticed that meditation was a way for me to download things. And I didn't even use it as a term of meditation. I think I told you as a kid, right before I'd go to sleep, I would just lay down in stillness and imagine things. Nothing was too intentful. It was just bliss and just imagining.
What do you feel the difference is when you really are wanting something really bad and maybe there's some undertone of impatience or striving, versus the difference of when you just make that list and you know it's kind of like an order to the universe and you know it's just in the mail? What is the difference of those feelings? Because we know feelings are frequencies, but
Right.
What are the difference is not only in your feelings, but you think your results of your desires?
I have so many examples for that. I think one thing, a lot of my friends oftentimes look at me and like, Arica, why does things just land in your lap? Like,
Yeah.
I want it so bad. And it's like,
Family
there's
members even
so
say she's
much
got a
energy.
golden spoon versus a silver spoon because everything works out.
Exactly. And it's not even that it's just happening or like there's something like special about me. There's nothing of that nature. It's my energy and intention behind things. If you are yearning for something extremely hard, there's a sense of lack. If you want something so bad, you are focusing more on your lack thereof versus gaining something. I also have the analogy of when we were kids, I feel like everyone's had that experience of being in the bathtub and they're like rocking back and forth, and they love seeing the waves go back and forth, and it's so rampant and it's fun. But if you think about it, if the universe or God wants to plant something in your life, if he wants to put these ducks in a row, is he gonna put the ducks in a row in rampant water or still water? Obviously the still water, because the ducks are safer. They're not gonna turn over. It's a safer environment. So
And things will go accordingly.
Exactly. So within your own self,
Disarray and chaos.
if you have this rampant water, it's not going to be placed in your life. So that's why I feel like with the energy and intention behind things, it's important. That's what makes it different versus having that yearning feeling. You'll feel it. You'll know when you're not being grateful enough of the place of where you are. I think that's another thing, is being accepting and allowing to allow it to happen versus trying to force something and just begging for it almost.
Yeah, I mean, applaud you, and I love watching how you're very intuitive. You look inward and stay in touch with your emotions and thoughts, and sometimes even you let your surroundings be a cue. Hey, I might be out of line here.
Right.
What are some of the triggers that lets you know, hey, I might not be going down the path that I want, or the momentum's going the wrong way? So one is, what are the signs or triggers to you, and then how do you kind of turn the course?
Sometimes it's hard to know. Like, you get so caught up. I'm one of those people. I know we all have been guilty of being on autopilot mode. We don't really notice what we're doing, and that's, I think, something everyone really suffers from. But it's not even a suffering. It's just a way of life that happens. So oftentimes it does take me a while to notice that that's happening, but I feel like the elements kind of ground me. And what I mean by elements, it's almost literal. So whether that's like planting my feet firmly on the ground and just really feeling the earth, that brings me back.
Mm-hmm.
Taking a cold shower, as random as that sounds, that cold air and that feeling, the senses, it really brings you back.
Jolt.
And I can reflect, and that's the introspective part of it, being able to be introspective and look at yourself without bias and really see things from all perspectives. And that's when you can kind of realize where your intention is.
The practice of counting your blessings and being aware and grateful can ground you and keep you going in that direction.
Right.
Well, from being a very close spectator in your life, I've seen how your thoughts and your feelings, the deepest frequency, the deepest language, has taken you in some dark, dry wildernesses, but I've also seen it to where it brings you into what friends and family say, into your Garden of Eden, where fruit is dropping at your feet and the serendipity is like angels fanning you. What do you have to say for people, just to encourage them that life has those polarities and what to do with them? And I think with me, what I'll just say quickly about that is just not to have the judgment of either place. They're all true experiences bringing you to maybe a greater purpose or higher introspection. But what do you have to say about your minds can drive you to either places, but isn't it all for the greater good?
It is. And just adding on to you saying like the no judgment, that's something I mentioned earlier. Having acceptance and allowing, you need to be accepting of where you are at that moment, because then you would be yearning. So I guess I would say change your frequency.
That channel to where you don't want to be.
The channel.
Inside joke to that.
But I would say that is one of the biggest factors. Just being accepting and allowing of wherever you are, even if you're in one of your darkest depths of despair, be accepting and knowing that there's a reason for that. And we even talked earlier about sometimes the negative things that are happening in your life aren't your fault.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
There is sometimes it's the people in your life. Sometimes it's the job you're working at. That's the energy that's being put into your life.
And that
you don't deserve
per se.
Exactly. You don't deserve those things that are happening to you. You didn't do anything sometimes. Sometimes maybe you did. That's the law of attraction and how things balance out. But sometimes genuinely there's nothing that you did. It could be someone who is in your, as I say, your magnetic field, because everything does have an attraction, even to the scientific state of being positive and negative. Some things repel, some things attract. And if there's that negative thing in your life being attracted to you, you just need to become a positive force, even stronger, that it gets repelled.
Stay sunny.
So stay
These
sunny.
props were not here on purpose.
So that's just one thing I would give to anyone. And it's a work in progress. And there are moments where I may have a dry spell. I'm not really attracting anything. It's because I'm preoccupied. And that's another thing of
Neutralize.
yeah. And then you just ground yourself again, see where you are.
To give you some background where that conversation came from, I was asking her, what do you say about the times when somebody might have been robbed? And with the law of attraction, it's saying that you always have attracted your experience. Whatever's happening in your life, you've attracted it through thought or feeling. And she had a great point that kind of actually brought my perspective a little bit more open. in a broad sense, you might have still brought that to you by being in that vicinity or in that area,
Right.
or you chose that friend who is negative,
Right.
and you might have already had some inspiration and nudges to not be so friendly, don't spend so much time with that person, but you don't listen, then that person does kind of pull you into their force field because they might be a little stronger than your current state. So just be mindful that sometimes you might have brought that into your existence, or you could just be a bystander of someone
Right.
else's energy.
Really see what you're doing.
Have pure intentions. with
Have
everything
pure
you do.
intentions with everything you do. And like I said, it's not a piece of cake. It's not. But it's something you can work towards every day. And once you do, you'll start feeling a more rewarding like emotion that, wow, I'm really in tune with myself. Because
I
oftentimes,
just love the serendipity. That's almost more rewarding than the actual thing that I'm trying to manifest. It can sound like a lot to babysit and watch and monitor, but really it's just always just protect how you feel. How do I feel, and what can I do to change how I feel? And then the rest just falls into place. Is there anything you would like to bring that we haven't talked about? Any other components that you feel help a person know where they are on the journey, or how to wield the law of attraction?
I feel like it's very subjective. Like I said, some of these things that we may be suggesting won't work for you because every person is different. And knowing that, that's the whole point of being introspective. I feel like that is the one thing that will help with everybody,
The
is
specifics
because
will be different.
it will be able to mold to you, and to not be afraid to try. I feel like if you just practice it as much as you can, it'll come to you naturally. It is something that is supposed to be a way of life. This is something that mankind was supposed to discover and be able to wield and use. So there are no inhibitions. The only inhibition is within yourself.
One thing I really felt so freed is when I stopped equating things to time. I didn't know
Yes.
there was such an internal clock racing that I had to get to a purpose or a place or get a thing within time, and it created such an impatience in me. And impatience was my nemesis, because it was like lack of faith. When you are impatient, it causes you to keep asking, and you're always in the asking mode,
Right.
never getting in the receiving mode. Like, I trust, I'm just waiting. So when I remove, there's no rush, there's no time. I have all the time in the world to make this happen. And however and whenever it happens, it's the perfect timing. That has opened so much of the floodgates for me. So
Right.
that might be something you can maybe find in your path, and you can learn from my mistake.
I was telling her not too long ago about how sometimes the law of attraction is kind of like having a genie. In Aladdin, they had times where he would wish for something, and then that is not necessarily what he wanted, or
And the genie would always be like, "Are you sure?"
any fable. It was like, are you sure that's what you want to wish for? Because if you are too specific, it might snowball affect some other things in your life that you weren't really expecting, because you were so specific that it now attaches to other things. Or if you're too broad, you have no idea what you may be dealing with. So it's like a happy medium thing. And I believe that your passing thoughts are sometimes your most powerful.
But if you just go, I trust God that He's always trying to make me happy.
God's got this.
Yeah, that He's always going to give me my greatest good, and everything's going to work out for my good. That surprise and delight can be there. Like,
My last tidbit would be to investigate your learning style, because I think that the law of attraction, once again, is another subject that you're just learning. Everyone has their own learning style, whether you're a visual learner, whether you're an audible learner. There's all different ways. Personally, I'm a visual learner, so that way I make things that are visual focused. So I have a vision board. Maybe you like to read. Maybe you want to read on the law of attraction, or read about the things that you want in your life. So it just kind of subconsciously gets into your brain,
Instead of write the
creates
lists,
those
journal.
lists, and it creates those passing thoughts. So if you can find your learning
spot.
style, it'll help you tackle the law of attraction. Can I just say that quarantine has been the perfect time for stillness?
yes.
The
new
perfect
practices.
time for stillness.
Less inner interference.
Exactly. No inhibition.
So, but you can see, we can talk about this all the time. Thank you all for tuning in, and
Thank you for having me.
you're welcome. See you next time, and may you enjoy the journey within.